Section 14 of a Guidebook of Art, Architecture, and Historic Interests in Pennsylvania, edited by Margaretta Archambault. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Tatiana Chichilla. Berks County. Formed March 11, 1752, reduced to present limits, 1811. Named for Berkshire, England, where Penn family had large estates, has broad, fertile plains and valleys intermingled with rough hills and mountains containing mineral wealth and iron. First settlers were Germans and friends from England, 1704 to 12, among whom was George Boone, ancestor of Daniel Boone of Kentucky, who was born here in Exeter Township, 1735. Mordecai Lincoln, great-great-grandfather of Abraham Lincoln, also lived in Exeter Township. He owned 1,000 acres of land, had interest in iron forges, and built a small stone house in 1733 that now forms one end of the present homestead, which remained in the Lincoln family until 1912. The Lincoln men of Berks County were all men of note, several holding public positions. One, Abraham, married Anna Boone. He died 1806. In 1729, Conrad Weiser came over with Germans from the Palatinate and settled near Womelsdorf, where he is buried in the family burial ground, marked by a boulder. His granddaughter was married to the patriarch Henry Melchior Muhlenberg. Farm and burial ground of Conrad Weiser, purchased by the Berks County Historical Society, is to be maintained as a memorial park. The Dutch came in 1730. Their descendants still reside on their ancestral estates. They named the river flowing through the county Schuylkill, Hidden Creek. Indian name was Menai-Unk. When the war was declared between England and France, the French found the Indians eager to join them against the British, and after Braddock's defeat at Fort Duquesne in 1755, they devastated these peaceful settlers by fire and slaughter until 1778, when they were driven beyond the Alleghenies. This region has become famous for winemaking. Vines are grown on Mount Penn, Neversink, and the Alsace mountain slopes. Over 50 years ago, George L. Reiniger left the fertile vinelands of Furtenberg and settled here, where the soil, scenery, and environment seemed so much like the fatherland. These vineyards are now used for the cultivation of dahlias. Reading, county seat, population 107,784, was laid out in 1748 by agents of Richard and Thomas Penn, named for Reading in Berkshire, England. Courthouse on Penn Common, 5th and Penn Streets, built 1762, present building in 1840 on North 6th Street. Colonial with Ionic porch. Cupola 84 feet above the roof. In the park are equestrian statue of General David McMurtry Gregg by H. Augustus Lukeman, New York, the Fireman's Monument, the First Defenders, and Frederick Lauer, all designed and made by P. F. Eisenbrown, Sons and Company, Reading. The bronze statue of President McKinley, Reliefs and Eagles, was designed by Edward L. A. Posh, Buffalo, New York. Prison, Penn Street and Perkiomen Avenue, red sandstone, castellated Gothic, built 1846. Architect John Haviland. A two-story building, northeast corner of 5th Street and Penn Square, was built in 1764 for a tavern. Washington stayed here in 1794, en route to join troops against the Whiskey Rebellion. Now Farmers Bank, it is marked as the oldest building in town. The Hessian Campground, southwest of Reading, is also marked. Trinity Church, most important Lutheran church in this country, is a fine example of Georgian architecture, northwest corner of 6th and Washington Streets, was built 1791. Christ Protestant Episcopal Cathedral, Gothic, brownstone, built in 1864. Architect, Potter, New York, has good windows. The Reading Museum and Art Gallery, 8th and Washington Streets, has a good collection of paintings representing foreign and American artists, including 60 paintings given by Mrs. William Littleton Savage as memorial to her parents, Mr. and Mrs. George de Benneville Keem, and other works of art and natural history. It is open free to the public. The Historical Society of Berks County, 38 North 4th Street, has a good historical collection. Among the notable artists who have lived in Reading are Christopher H. Shearer, represented in permanent collection at Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, Philadelphia; Benjamin F. Austrian, noted still-life painter, born here 1870; James A. Benaid, landscape; F. D. Devlin, animal painter and cartoonist. During the Civil War, he furnished many cartoons for Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper. George Sealing, mural decorator, born in Bavaria 1818. His paintings are in St. James's Church, the Transfiguration, and Calvary Church, Christ bearing the cross. Calvary Reformed Church has stone mosaic decoration in chancel by H. Hanley Parker. Charles Evans Cemetery, acquired by gift in 1864, has Gothic gateway, dark sandstone, made in 1847. Architects, Calver and Hall, Philadelphia. The chapel is brownstone, Gothic, built 1854. Architect John M. Grease, who was a major in the Union Army, killed in Battle of Fair Oaks. Here is the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, with bronze tablets, erected 1889. Reading was the resort of many fugitive families from Philadelphia while the British were there in the winter of 1776 to 77, and became the scene of much gaiety. General Mifflin, afterwards governor, had his country seat at Cumru, 3 miles southeast of Reading, now used as the county almshouse and hospital buildings. In the different wars of this country, Berks County men were among the first to offer their services. The Ringgold Light Artillery, Captain James McKnight, is said to have been the first company that reported at Harrisburg in response to President Lincoln's proclamation in 1861, and was one of 5 Pennsylvania companies to arrive first at Washington in defense of the capital. At Kutztown, settled by Germans in 1733, is the Keystone State Normal School, originally Maxitawny Seminary, but since 1866, the Normal School, enlarged after most improved models of school architecture. 4 miles distant is Virginsville. Here is a natural curiosity, the Crystal Cave, of vast dimensions, with crystal formations in every shape and color. It is lighted by electricity. Boyertown, with 2 large academies, and Birdsboro, with fine churches and residences, are noted for their iron furnaces. Hamburg is the home of the Berks County State Sanatorium No. 3 for tuberculosis, Spanish architecture. Berks County has several picturesque old bridges. The oldest, with 1 arch, stone, built in 1822, spans the Wyomissing Creek at its mouth, opposite Reading. 13 other stone arch bridges, the longest over Maiden Creek, 4 arches, built in 1854, and 25 wooden-covered bridges are decided artistic assets. Historic iron furnaces in Berks County are at Birdsboro, Hay Creek Forges, built 1740 by William Byrd on land obtained by Warren and Survey. He also erected Hopewell Furnace in 1759, and the Berkshire Furnace in Heidelberg about 1760. His son, Mark Byrd, inherited the property, and built Spring Forge and Gibraltar Forge. In 1796, John Lewis Bard became the owner. His daughter was married to Matthew Brooke, who subsequently purchased the property, which has become an extensive ironworks. Colebrookdale, famous as the seat of the first blast furnace in Pennsylvania, was on Ironstone Creek, named for the Colebrookdale Furnace in Shropshire, England. It was founded by Thomas Rudder and Thomas Potts in 1720. In 1724, the output was 48 tons of pig iron per annum, each ton valued at £5. This was the first furnace to cast pots, kettles, and other hollowware by the use of sand molds. It had a long and prosperous career. Hopewell, a cold blast, 1-stack furnace, employed 170 men and boys. The iron ore was obtained from the Hopewell mine about 2 miles away. Water from Hopewell Creek formed the motive power. A dam was constructed a quarter of a mile above the furnace and conveyed by a race to the big water wheel. The property covered 5,163 acres, chiefly woodland. Stoves were cast here with much detailed design, marked with the name of Byrd, also cannon for the Revolutionary Army. Hopewell Furnace, although idle for many years, is not dismantled, and the village street of ironworkers' homes is much the same as it must have been in early times. Oley Forge, south of the little hamlet called Oley Churches, and about 10 miles from the confluence of the Manatawny and Schuylkill rivers, was organized by John Ross in 1744, and was in active operation for 120 years. In 1760, a valuable deposit of iron ore was found in Oley Township, and in 1765, Dietrich Welker erected Oley Furnace near the mountain. It was owned by General Daniel Udry during the Revolution. Pine Forge was among the earliest of those erected in the Manatawny district, on land conveyed by William Penn to Thomas Rudder. The original patent is in possession of the Rudder family. There is every evidence that the group of early forges and furnaces had a general interchange in their business affairs, as the owners of the plants were almost identical. William Byrd in 1733 was cutting wood for the use of Pine Forge at 2 shillings 9 pence a day. 10 years later, we find him renting 1/8 of Pine Forge at £40 per annum. The management of the old forges was patriarchal in its character. Gristmill, sawmill, and the village store were all under control of the company, and the records of the old forges and furnaces are filled with human interests of an earlier day. Windsor Furnace, on Furnace Creek, under shadow of the Blue Mountains, besides making pig iron and the usual hollowware cast in colonial times, was noted for remarkable artistic work under the management of Jones, Keam, and Company. One casting, being a copy of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, is now in possession of the Philadelphia Exchange. End of section 14.